you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight with my good friend Jeff MD, author extraordinaire. You can see the books behind him. 26-year CIA operative, smartest guy in the room at all times, according
to one holdout house.
That's according to myself and Don Mann. Don Mann taught me about that. As far as Jeff is concerned, they co-authored some of their books together. Fascinating stuff. All right, Jeff. So the breaking news today, the big piece of breaking news, is the Supreme Court ruling essentially against the Trump admin on freezing the USAID funds, but it's not as clear cut as it may appear. It's actually worse than it appears. So here's Laura Loomer's comments on it. The U.S. Supreme Court just denied President Trump's bid to cancel $2 billion in USAID funding in a 5-4 vote. So basically, SCOTUS is overruling Trump to pay out foreign aid. Roberts and Barrett sided with Democrat-appointed justices. Trump appointed Barrett. Another comment here from Charlie Kirk. Breaking: the Supreme Court has ruled that President Trump must unfreeze $1.9 billion in foreign USAID payments. Justice Samuel Alito blasts the majority, with Justices Thomas, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh joining in dissent. Does a single district court judge who likely lacks jurisdiction have the unchecked power to compel the government of the United States to pay out and probably lose forever $2 billion in taxpayer funds? The answer to that question should be an emphatic no, but a majority of this court apparently thinks otherwise. I am stunned. And then the next one, if you were with us last night during Trump's address to Congress, John Wheaton and I both called this out last night. The look Amy gave Trump here is a look of a guilty conscience and compromise. She clearly hates him. 10 seconds. That is just brutal. Absolutely brutal. The first thought that occurred to me, Jeff, when all of this broke, was that they got to her somehow, some way. They're either, sending money her way or something her way, because this is a ridiculous ruling. I have a video queued up from Timcast. I'm obviously not going to play the whole thing, but there's a 3-minute section that I will play after you give us your take on this, with the context being is basically SCOTUS kicked it back down to a lower court and said the lower court has jurisdiction over this matter.
Yeah, that is the part I'm upset about, is the idea that you can have some stupid judge anywhere, any one of hundreds of federal judges, basically go tell the president of the United States he's got to do X, Y, and Z. Now, the fact that they, what I had read this morning was that some of these payments were for projects that were already completed. And in that sense, if you look at it as like a contract, you pay someone, like we discussed earlier, say USAID pays some company to build a road in Ghana, and the company builds the road in Ghana and then says, okay, we built the road, where's our payment? And then USAID, we go, yeah, we're not going to pay you now. If it is, in that sense, it's contractual. If someone had provided a service and we said we paid for that service and then we don't pay it, they have a right to be paid. We may not like the service they provided, or we may not like the project to begin with, but the U.S. government contracted with somebody to do something. They did it, and then we didn't pay them. I understand that. But to me, they should have to basically sue. I mean, it's a breach of contract case. It should be a civil case. They should sue the United States government, said, we contracted to do X. We did X. You didn't pay us. Where's our money? But this idea that a judge can compel them to to go out and disperse $1.9 million or $1 billion is kind of stupid. And it's just ridiculous. They do have recourse, and it shouldn't be some judge doing a blanket, you got to pay all this money.
Yeah. Before we listen to the 2-minute snippet from Timcast, this person says, I've never seen a dissent like this. Justice Alito says he is stunned that 5 justices of the Supreme Court are giving a single district court judge unchecked power when he likely lacks jurisdiction to force a $2 billion non-refundable payment at a complete loss to taxpayers. And you can see where it's highlighted in the bottom right corner. I am stunned. That's the part that gets me. I don't disagree with you. If you've signed an agreement, you have to pay the agreement, even if it's a crappy agreement, if the person did what they were contracted to do, right? But the inference here from the Supreme Court ruling is that all of those lower courts are on equal footing with Trump, and that is just not the case. The Constitution specifically refers to them as being inferior and not being a co-equal branch of government. SCOTUS, the executive, and Congress are co-equal branches, but not these lower court judges, which also I like to mention, just so people are clear, they are a construct of Congress, that nothing else. So it basically, if we're to believe that these lower court judges have an equal say to the executive, or a greater say, I should say, than the executive, it means that Congress rules everything, period.
Yeah, well, he could also, Trump can also do the Andrew Jackson, where he said, Marshall's made his ruling, now let him enforce it, because they have no ability to enforce anything on their own. And if they just said, sorry, Article 2 Constitution, we're not.
Good point, because there's a lot of pundits right now that are saying that exact same thing. Trump should just say, screw you, I'm not playing by your rules. But everything comes at a cost, right? The lack of political clout, credibility would be pretty significant. And I don't see Trump doing that, to be honest with you. Trump actually, in my opinion, relishes going through the court system and winning. So I don't know that he'll do that, but I guess we'll find out. But let's listen to about 2 minutes of Tim Pool here, who gives us a pretty good breakdown.
The Supreme Court ruled 5-4 on Wednesday against the Trump administration and sided with a lower court judge's order for the government to pay around $2 billion to USAID contractors. The High Court rejected the Department of Justice emergency application and sent it back down to the lower court for further proceedings. The one-page order stated that the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia issued a temporary restraining order on February 13th, blocking the Trump admin from enforcing directives that pause the distribution of foreign development AID funds. I don't want to call it aid. Stop doing that, post-millennial. On the 25th, the D.C. court ordered the Trump admin to issue payments, which were for work already completed before the issuance of the temporary restraining order. This amounted to around $2 billion. A deadline was issued for the Trump admin to comply as of 11:59 p.m. on February 26, hours before which the administration filed a request to intervene with the Supreme Court. The unsigned order states the application is denied. Let's pull it up right now. They say the dissenting judges were Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh. See, I called it. And then, of course, you had Roberts and Coney Barrett, of course, siding with the liberals. We have this tweet from Charlie Kirk, who says, breaking, Supreme Court has ruled that Trump must unfreeze $1.9 billion in foreign USAID payments. Unbelievable. Alito blasts the majority, with Justices Thomas, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh joining in dissent. Well, I have the ruling here. And let's not waste any time with filler nor patter. They basically say on February 13th, the United States District Court for the District of Columbia entered in temporary restraining order, blah, blah, blah. Moving on. Justice Alito, with whom Justice Thomas, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh join, dissenting. Does a single district court judge who likely lacks jurisdiction have the unchecked power to compel the government of the United States to pay out and probably lose forever $2 billion taxpayer dollars? The answer to that question should be an emphatic no. But a majority of this court apparently thinks otherwise. I am stunned. Guys, Alito's the best. Well, actually, I think Thomas is the best. But shout out to the rest. Kavanaugh sided against my views on guns. I'll let it slide. He's okay. But Gorsuch has been all right. Thomas and Alito, though, they are based. In capsule form, this is what happened. Respondents are a group of American business and nonprofits that receive foreign assistance funds from the State Department and USAID. They brought suit and claimed that the current administration's temporary pause of foreign assistance payments is unlawful. On February 13, 2025, the district court issued a restraining order, temporary, requiring the government to halt its funding pause. It based that decision on a finding that respondents are likely to succeed in showing the government violated the Administrative Procedure Act, APA. After issuing the TRO, the district judge grew frustrated with the pace at which funds were being dispersed. And on the 25th of February, he issued a second order requiring the government to pay out approximately $2 billion. The judge brushed aside the government's argument that sovereign immunity barred this enforcement order. And he took two steps that, unless corrected, would prevent any higher court from reviewing and possibly stopping the payments. First, he labeled the order as non-appealable TRO. And second, he demanded the money be paid within 36 hours. This left the government little time to try to obtain some review of what it regarded as a lawless order.
So, Jeff, before we wrap this up, give me your take on a lower court judge saying this decision is not appealable.
Yeah, I don't know how they can just decide it's not appealable. In that case, there would never be an appeal because no judge likes to be overturned on appeal. So they just make all decisions non-appealable. So that just is bullshit to me. I don't know where that comes from. But yeah, again, I'm torn on this because if someone did a job and we said we'd pay you and then we don't, but again, they have recourse through the courts, but they have to bring a suit for non-performance of a contract. And the thing is, when you sue the government, you have to get the government's permission to sue, which they tend not to give you. So I can understand why a judge would intercede and say, look, they did it, pay them. But what Trump needs to do is to say, okay, we'll pay them the $2 billion. And guess what? No more contracts ever for any of these programs. These programs are dead. And when they also called it a pause on funding, okay, just say it's not a pause. We're just not funding. We've nuked it. They're done. USAID, he just says USAID is done. The entity, who let the contracts no longer exists. Therefore, all contracts, all future services are null and void. But you have to pay people for what they've already done.
Yeah. So if my memory is correct, the judge referred to here is McConnell in Rhode Island. And it doesn't matter if it's him or not, because all of these lower court judges who have ruled on different aspects of this funding have conflicts of interest. So the one in Rhode Island in particular, it heads up an NGO that will get somewhere around 120 million out of this money, which flows right back to him. The guy basically spent $700,000 on Democrat campaigns and bought himself a lifetime appointment to the bench, sort of thing. But if this is the other one, Ali, the one who's a dual citizen of Canada and the United States, he also has conflicts because the money, part of this gets paid out to an NGO in Canada that he's part of, and the money flows back to him. Every last one of them is compromised when it comes to the financial side of this. So we'll see what unfolds here. We're not attorneys, but as it stands right now, we're with the Justice Alito. This is a pretty bizarre ruling. And again, we'll see where it goes. Quick mention that if you go over to libertyclub.net and you click the video, this video here in the top left-hand corner, it'll take you to a page that has a link to our live chat on Liberty Club. So bottom line is we don't censor anything on Liberty Club. It's Todd Callender's brand new social media site that we just built for him. And Rumble's probably the best at not censoring people for their videos, but they do censor comments. They do censor the chat. So if you click this link right here and you take it over to the chat, which is right here, I can guarantee you that there will be no censorship whatsoever. Once we go beyond that, X still has a lot of woke code under the hood that penalizes people like us, and so do the other platforms, but they're even worse. But I'll get off of that and move on to this. So I put a list together this morning, as I said I would last night, of what I felt the highlights of Trump's address were last night. So I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, Jeff, and then you can take us back to whichever ones you specifically want to comment. So number one, America is back in a golden age. Trump opened with a triumphant declaration that America is back, proclaiming the start of a golden age for the nation. He framed his first 6 weeks in office as a period of swift and unrelenting action to usher in a prosperous era, emphasizing a nationalist vision. Over 400 executive orders, by the way, or memoranda as well. Number two, immigration crackdown. He highlighted his administration's border security efforts, claiming illegal crossings last month were the lowest ever recorded due to his policies. This is true. Trump touted the extradition of 29 cartel leaders from Mexico as a win tied to his tariff strategy and called for funding to complete the largest deportation program in American history. And by the way, no new laws had to be passed to clamp down the border. We've gone from a high of 11,000 encounters a day to 200 and change. Phenomenal difference as far as the invasion being cut off. And the other side would have you believe that we needed this bipartisan bill, which would have codified 5,000 illegals a day being put on a fast track to citizenship. And if you want to know why that is, Democrats and liberals don't breed. So in order for them to survive in the long term, they have to do two things. They have to indoctrinate your children, and they have to import illegals that'll vote for them forever. And that's why this has been happening. All right, number three, tariffs and trade. Trump defended his newly imposed 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, plus an additional 10% on China, arguing they protect the soul of our country. He acknowledged potential economic disturbance, but insisted it's America's turn to retaliate against unfair trade practices, citing plans for massive U.S. auto plants as a result. And we're going to circle back to that one, absolutely. Number four, economic relief and tax cuts. Addressing inflation and high costs like egg prices, he blamed the Biden administration for an economic catastrophe and promised immediate relief for working families. Trump urged Congress to eliminate taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security benefits, make car loan interest deductible for U.S.-made vehicles, and pass broader tax cuts. So the easiest one to deal with here is the inflation as it relates to eggs. The Biden admin killed 100 million chickens in December on the suspicion that a handful of them may have had the bird flu, but that was never actually proven. So when you take 100 million chickens out of the economy and prices go up, this is economics 101, right? Next one up, number five, culture wars and social policy. He leaned into cultural flashpoints, calling for a permanent ban on gender-affirming care for minors, ending transgender ideology in schools, and dismantling diversity, equity, inclusion programs. Trump also pushed for English as the official language and renaming geographic features like the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Number six, government efficiency and budget. Trump praised Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency for savings. It's kind of funny why I reworded this and put the word alleged in there. Yeah, absolutely big savings. Though he exaggerated figures like 105 billion. So there's a reason I left this in the brief. And what I wanted to point out is I took the 8 things that I thought were the biggest and I dropped them into Grok, Claude, and Chat GPT and said, give me a couple sentences on each one. And this is what came from Chat GPT. And I wanted to leave it in for the simple reason that Chat GPT is so hardcore left and woke that if you expect to get neutral content from Chat GPT, will never happen. Anyway, he proposed balancing the federal budget unseen in 24 years while seeking funding for a Golden Dome missile shield. Number 7, foreign policy highlights. Late in the speech, he addressed Ukraine, claiming Zelensky is ready to negotiate with Russia and reiterated goals like acquiring Greenland and the Panama Canal. Trump also emphasized ending radical Islamic terrorism and building on the Abraham Accords. Last one, number 8, partisan tone and Biden criticism. The speech was highly partisan, with Trump mocking Democrats as radical left lunatics, unwilling to applaud his achievements, and repeatedly called Joe Biden the worst president in American history, blaming him for inflation, border issues, and more. His 100-minute address is the longest of its kind in modern history. Jeff, you want to comment on any of these bullets in particular?
Well, a couple of them. The tariffs and trade, everybody's making such a big deal about the tariffs. But, with with Trump, a tariff is just a tool. And what you're going to see is, okay, he says, I want you to do X. They don't do it. He says, okay, I'll put a tariff on you. They don't believe him. Then he does put a tariff on them. And then they go, oh crap, he put a tariff on us. Let's go, we better go do X. And then they do it, and then the tariff goes away. Now, the ones that shouldn't go away, at least not till they really get some response, are the reciprocity tariffs. It's like Europe puts I think it's a 10% tariff on the import of American cars, but we don't have a tariff on the import of European cars in the United States. So that's, it's bullshit. We need to say, okay, if you're going to put a tariff on American agricultural products going to Europe, then we're going to do the same to you. Now, if you don't want to pay our tariffs and we don't want to pay your tariffs, how about we both get rid of all of our tariffs on agricultural products? And that's what needs to happen. And that's what will happen. It's just leverage. So that one is temporary. You look, and the same thing goes with his foreign policy stuff. Everybody had just a conniption fit over the Ukraine thing. But his point was, if you're not willing to at least discuss peace talks, to Zelensky, we're cutting your ass off. And he did, and he stopped all military aid to Ukraine for about 24 hours. And what happens? Zelensky goes, I'm ready to talk peace. We can talk peace. Yeah, we can do that. So he's playing hardball. When he threatens, he follows through. And I think people are beginning to realize that. And so he's going to get a lot more results a lot faster because he is willing. It's one of those, either you let go of me or I'm going to punch you in the face. And they don't let go, and you punch him in the face. They don't grab you again.
So let's back up a little bit to the tariff part before we roll into chapter 1. So what Trump asked the Canadians and Mexicans do was to help stop the flow of fentanyl precursors, illegal aliens, terrorists into our country by doing a better job of protecting their own borders. And Justin Trudeau, who is a World Economic Forum young global leader, Klaus Schwab loves to brag how, in addition to Justin Trudeau, he has multiple other people high up in the Canadian government on his team. So if they had have made a pledge to us that they would help with all of those things, there would be no tariffs, which begs the question, why would a country that relies so heavily on us and not the other way around? It's funny because we've got something queued up for tonight, and I'm going to be ballparkish with the numbers, but I think we had something like 120 million tourists come to Florida last year. And out of that, 3.3 million, which is approximately 2% of them, were Canadian. So by Canadians not coming to Florida, it's not going to hurt us in Florida at all. As a matter of fact, we do not have enough infrastructure for what we already have here, plus everything else. And by the way, Monster 82, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. All right. So who's going to sell the cars to if they build new plants? People can't afford cars already made. Look at the car lots are full. That's a good question. And when we touch on some of the economic stuff, we'll do our best to answer that. But thank you for the $5 tip. It's very much appreciated. Very kind of you. Thank you. So anyway, back to the tariff situation with the WEF and Trudeau. He's engaging us in a trade war because he's being ordered to do that by Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. And it's going to have catastrophic consequences for our friends in Canada. And we love our Canadian cousins and family and friends, but their government is even more corrupt than our government is. So there's a reason for them going down this path. They had the choice. They could have merely helped stem the flow of bad stuff coming into their country and then our country, and they didn't do that. Do you want to chime in on that, Jeff, before we move on?
Well, you're absolutely right. They could have easily prevented this by just doing what was right, but they didn't, and they're going to pay the price for it. They're going to get a black eye, and then they'll end up doing it in the future anyway.
And my point is that there is no reason at all for them to have chosen the path that they chose unless there's something else going on, and that something else going on is the WEF, essentially.
Yeah.
So check this out from CBS, of all places, a legacy media outlet. Overwhelming majority of viewers approve Trump's speech. And when you scroll down, Large CBS News poll, large majority of viewers approve of Donald Trump's speech, approve 76%, disapprove 23%. That's a pretty big number from an organization who is notorious for oversampling Democrats. And before anybody puts any snotty comments in the chat on any of the 8 platforms that we're broadcasting to, we are not Republicans at Survival Dispatch. Every last one of us, there's about 19 of us that work on Survival Dispatch on a daily basis for the most part. We're all libertarians, lowercase l. We all share common, let's say, traditional American values and beliefs. We also believe that the Republicans and Democrats are 2 different sides of the same coin. So don't worry about jumping our shit that we're trying to stand up for Republicans. We're not standing up for Republicans at all. So at the end of the day, Jeff, from somebody who's notorious for oversampling Democrats, I couldn't find what their samples were for this, but let's just assume that they did do that. The number's probably in the 90% range.
Yeah, I mean, if they're admitting to 76, it's a lot more.
It has to be. So interesting story, that's for sure. All right, next one up. Carolyn Levitt, and this is today. Last night was a very clarifying moment for our country. The Democrats exposed themselves as the party of insanity and hate. 19 seconds.
Last night was a very clarifying moment for our country. The Democrats exposed themselves as the party of insanity and hate, the party that wants to put America last. They've allowed their Trump derangement syndrome to stop them from celebrating America and our people. We will not allow them to forget that.
So, Jeff, there's a number of things that stand out for me, but the young lad who has brain cancer and the Democrats couldn't even applaud that. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like someone saying, okay, if you really want people to hate you, do the 5 following things. And they did all 5. I mean, Lake and Riley's parents were there, and they could not stand to acknowledge them. The kid with brain cancer, they couldn't even clap that he was alive. It's just everything. It's like, are you trying to be on the wrong side of every single issue? The whole thing, they're all wearing pink. We support women. Although the day before we voted that men could beat the crap out of women in sports.
Unanimously, I might add.
Yeah, not a single Democrat voted to keep men out of women's sports. But hey, we're for women. No, you're not. You guys, you're just stupid and evil.
Yeah, unusually short comment from Sarah. She is a prolific writer. Her comments on our videos are so well thought out and verbose. So I think when Sarah just says demons, just like that, it's kind of like retard finder saying, I found one. There's nothing more to say. It is what it is. And she is not wrong.
Well, Democrats are so eager to do the exact opposite of whatever Trump says. Trump needs to say, suicide is bad. People should not commit suicide. And then all the liberals will commit suicide just to prove him wrong. And then we win. Yeah,
or they'll institute the euthanasia program that Canada has. For people who aren't aware of this now, in Canada, if you decide you don't want to live anymore, you can go to your doctor and say, I'm done. Just take me out, and they'll do it.
It's called MAID, Medical Assistance in Dying.
Yeah, it's called evil. But anyway, the next bucket up of posts. Trump's Congress address highlights partisan divide during what former President Donald Trump. Now, why would they say that on X? I just refreshed this page. Did not say that earlier. I went to Explore to pull this up. That was not there earlier. Former president? All right. Let's just say President Donald Trump described as his 5th speech to Congress. He expressed frustration, claiming that Democrats would not acknowledge or applaud his potential achievements, such as curing a devastating disease, boosting the economy to record levels, or reducing crime. His remarks highlight a perceived partisan divide, though it was actually his first address in his 2nd term. The reactions from Democrats were not detailed, but his comments suggest they remain unresponsive to his claims. 1 minute and 8 seconds. I'm going to play the whole video.
This is my fifth such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it just shouldn't be this way.
So, Jeff, notice how they have all these signs. Have you seen the ones where
Steals? Yes, he's the richest man in the world. He wants your $57.
Yeah. Have you seen some of the posts today on X where
they're all like, pointed at themselves, retarded.
Exactly. All their signs have been changed to say, I'm a retard.
Yeah. And they are.
I'm still laughing my ass off that took off the way it did with Retard Finder. I mean, absolutely right time, right place for him to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just for the heck of it, see where he's at now. He was 420,000 or 440, one of the two last night. He's 509,000 followers now. And it just keeps.
I've got to follow him. I haven't clicked on him. I need to do that too.
When I started following him and I sent it to John Wheaton, he had about 10,000 followers. And it's amazing. I think he's got 8 days, maybe 9 days, eight or 9 days under his belt. He's going to go over 1 million subscribers on X inside of the first couple weeks, probably, maybe 3 weeks. All right.
Well, when you have Musk responding to him, and Musk is the most followed person in the world.
That's right.
He's going to go up.
All right. Next one up. Trump's Pocahontas comment sparks reaction at Congress. During a joint address to Congress on Tuesday night, President Donald Trump discussed U.S. support for Ukraine's defense, humorously referencing Senator Elizabeth Warren by using the nickname Pocahontas. This remark sparked a range of reactions, from laughter to visible frustration among attendees. Trump's address included reflections on ongoing foreign aid to Ukraine, questioning its duration, amid applause from Democrats on the subject. So before we play this short 51-second video, let's be clear. Elizabeth Warren lied on multiple applications and stated that she was Native American when she's anything but Native American. And she cheated, essentially. And she should be called out on it every single time that somebody has an opportunity to do so. They have no right to be pissed off at Trump over her lying through her freaking teeth and taking advantage of that. So, well,
you also look at it. Did she take a job that would have gone to a real Native American had she not lied?
Correct. Yeah. She deserves every bit of disdain that comes her way.
With no end in sight, the United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense, with no security, with no anything. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes. $2,000 people are being killed every single week.
Yeah, so Pocahontas deserved that. She's got to own it. She lied, took advantage of, claiming she had status as Native American. Border security solution was presidential leadership, not legislation. During last night's speech, President Donald Trump stated that securing the border did not require new legislation as previously suggested by the media and Democratic Party, but rather his leadership was sufficient. Trump claimed that under his administration, border crossings significantly decreased, attributing this change solely to his presidency. However, the effectiveness of presidential action versus legislative measures in managing border security remains a topic of debate. Well, the only topic of debate is that all of these changes that Trump, and many of them aren't changes, they're just reverting back to his original orders, is this stuff needs to be codified in law. And that's on the agenda for the Trump admin. But at the end of the day, Mayorkas, at the direction of Obama and Brennan and Biden and everybody else in that installed administration that was not properly elected, they weren't elected at all, committed treason by flooding our country with tens of millions of illegals for the reason I already stated. Those are their future voters, because they don't breed. Let's have a quick listen here, 55 seconds from JD Vance on this topic.
We took the helicopter ride over here and we saw a big chunk of border wall. And I said, is that the federal government's border wall? And they said, well, it was ordered during the first Trump administration, but Joe Biden wouldn't let us actually build it. Governor Abbott, of course, was the one who actually helped us put a lot of that stuff up. And of course, that stopped the flow in a pretty profound way. We'll talk a little bit more at the press conference, but as you saw, the president said yesterday, I think it's maybe the most important part of his speech, is that we didn't need new laws to secure the border. We needed a new president, and thank God we have that. I've heard already from a number of the folks that I've talked to in Border Patrol that all we needed to do was empower these guys to do their job. Thank God they have done their job. We're thrilled that they've done it. And now we've seen, I think just in this area, border crossings go from about 1,500 a day to 30 a day. That's simply the President of the United States empowering these professionals to do what they do so well. So we took the helicopter.
So comments on that, Jeff?
Well, it's absolutely right. I mean, I worked with Border Patrol when I was with the agency, and they are good guys. They are patriotic. They want to do their job. Most of them in the sectors I was at most of them were Hispanic and conservative, and they really wanted to do the job. They wanted to keep the country safe. They wanted to stem the tide. So if you get out of their way, they can do the job. If you give them the resources, they can do the job. Yeah. And they want to do the job.
100%. I mean, those clowns, they threw our border wide open, facilitated the invasion. We had people like Lake and Riley murdered. That blood is 100% on their hands.
Yes.
Absolutely disgusting what they tried to do to our country. And hopefully we never find ourselves in that situation again. All right, moving on to the next one. Trump deporting Biden's migrants is the great liberation of America. So I won't bother reading this entire post, but if you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, $9.99 to sign up for an insider membership. You get our daily sit rep, which has links to everything that we show, and plus. There's more stuff that we don't put in the show that's in the daily sit rep. It's a highly curated daily newspaper. We scan everything left to right, everything in between. When we see the Mockingbird crew repeating word for word like 22 senators did yesterday, that's your first red flag that it's complete and utter bullshit. And the next step is follow the money and find out why. And it's easy with those 22 senators in particular. And I'm pretty sure we have a clip coming up on them. So Trump's comment again was very accurate, in my opinion. We needed a new president, not new legislation to secure the border. 100%. We've got to codify these orders so we don't end up in the same situations we did last time, where a stolen election almost kills our country. All right. Trump points at Democrats while criticizing border policies. During Trump's address to Congress, Donald Trump made remarks regarding illegal border crossings, emphasizing the influx of criminals due to what he described as Biden's open border policies. In his speech, Trump gestured towards the Democrats while mentioning human traffickers, implying a critique of their immigration policies rather than a literal accusation against individuals. Blah, blah, blah. So we put the brief together over the course of the day. Sometimes we start it the night before. Anywhere, say, from 4 to 12 man hours goes into a brief. It depends what the topic is and how deep we dive down the rabbit hole. Then when it's time to go live, half hour before we go live, I take all of these articles and I queue them up fresh. And this is the second one now, Jeff. This is disconcerting. But again, just like the other one, former President Donald Trump. I don't know if
Is this from Grok?
yes. And I don't know if I'm like a conspiracy theorist or what, but that's got bad juju written all over it. Does that mean that Grok or somebody on the other side believes that President Trump's assassination is imminent or something? That's a strange thing for Grok to state for what's one of the most advanced AIs in the world. So I don't know, but let's play the short video, 48 seconds.
But if we truly care about protecting Americans' children, no step is more crucial than securing America's borders. Over the past 4 years, 21 million people poured into the United States. Many of them were murderers, human traffickers, gang members, and other criminals from the streets of dangerous cities all throughout the world. Because of Joe Biden's insane and very dangerous open border policies, they are now strongly embedded in our country, but we are getting them out and getting them out fast.
I don't know. I think we beat that to death, but if you want to take a swing at it, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, just briefly, I mean, it's like a sinking boat. Okay, closing the border is like plugging the leak. Now you got to bail out the water, and that's getting rid of all the illegals.
It's a good analogy. Trump's address signals shift from wokeness to traditional values. Instead of me verbalizing this, I'm going to play a 1 minute, 38-second clip from his speech last night.
Country
She hate America.
no longer. We believe that whether you are a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, or an air traffic controller, you should be hired and promoted based on skill and competence, not race or gender. Very important.
Who would oppose that? Unless you're an idiot. Unless you think black people don't qualify.
Based on merit. And the Supreme Court, in a brave and very powerful decision, has allowed us to do so. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they can't react to it.
We have removed the poison of critical race theory from our public schools, and I signed an order making it the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
I think every 2-year-old knows.
Yeah.
Let's go, Trump.
I also signed an executive order to ban men from playing in women's sports.
Common sense. Common sense. Common sense. Thank you.
And I agree with the commentator here.
Yeah.
Common sense, but common sense is somewhat uncommon these days, at least in some circles. So definitely support his changes as far as transgenderism and men and women's sports are concerned. Just a quick reminder that up until 2018, the World Health Organization, who the Democrats and the rhinos love to kiss their ass, they classified transgenderism, body dysmorphia, as a mental illness. And that's precisely what it is.
Well,
and you have somewhere in the neighborhood of 50% of them actually take themselves out by committing suicide, give or take. And an even larger number, of course, who attempt to commit suicide but don't manage to make it happen. They're not healthy people. They're not mentally healthy people. And it's bad enough that we let them live in a fantasy world, but there's no way they're dragging us into their fantasy world. Not going to happen. All right, Congressman. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I disagree with you.
Okay. Congressman removed for heckling during Trump's speech. During President Donald Trump's speech to a joint session of Congress, Representative Al Green, a Democrat from Texas, was removed from the chamber for repeatedly heckling the president. Green protested against perceived policy impacts on health care, specifically citing concerns over cuts to Medicare and Social Security. His actions led to his ejection by the House Sergeant at Arms under the direction of House Speaker Mike Johnson, highlighting a moment of significant political tension and debate over decorum versus protest rights in Congress. 1 minute, 3-second video of this gong show.
Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant at Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
You want to comment on him, Jeff?
He's been nuts forever. I mean, he tried to file impeachment charges on Trump like 3 days after he got sworn in this time. So yeah, he's just a lunatic.
The Democrats and the rhinos can't seem to get their heads wrapped around that if you keep doing the same things, you'll keep getting the same results. And believing other words is Einstein's comment. That's shows that you're insane.
Yeah.
Essentially. All right, next one up. Trump honors cancer survivor DJ Daniel in Congress. During his address to Congress, President Trump honored 13-year-old DJ Daniel, a cancer survivor with aspirations to become a police officer, by making him an honorary Secret Service agent. This gesture has been widely celebrated on social media, although it has also drawn criticism from some commentators for being politicized. Trump's action aimed the spotlight the courage of Daniel, who has faced numerous brain surgeries for years. Here he is with Byron Donalds, and I see John just sent a meme on this. If I can find it here quickly, I think this is it here. Nope. Next one. I got to show it now that there we go. All right. So there's your upgrade. Too funny. All right. Next one up. The U.S. has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense. Democrats clap. You want to keep it going another 5 years? Yeah. Pocahontas says yes. We've played this video, so I may have a duplicate in the brief, so I'm going to skip past that. But this next idea is pretty compelling. Trump pushes gold card for white-collar wealthy migrants. And we've been saying this for quite a while. We should be going after the smartest, most talented people in the world and get them into America, as opposed to people from third world countries who are illiterate in their own language, let alone English. Give me your thoughts on this gold card idea. I think it's brilliant.
I like the idea. I don't know you're going to retire the national debt doing this, but we should be seeking out good people. It's just like, okay, think of us as a company and we're trying to hire new employees. Well, yeah, hire the best.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting about this is you got basically these are the best employees and they're going to pay you to come work for you. Let them come here. If someone wants to start the next Google, the next SpaceX, I'd rather them do it here in America, hiring Americans, making our economy stronger, paying taxes into our government. And so, why would you want to import people who were failures in their own third world nation such that they got to come here?
Well, I mean, the answer is clear, right? That's the Democrats' way of not losing their base of voters, but we've already beat that to death. Yeah. All right, next one up. Trump on weaponized government. How did that work out? And this is a really good 58-second piece of his speech and very accurate.
And we've ended weaponized government where, as an example, a sitting president is allowed to viciously prosecute his political opponent, like me. How did that work out? Not too good. Not too good.
You have to be an absolute scumbag to say that that's false, you know?
Yeah.
And I've stopped all government censorship and brought back free speech in America. It's back. And 2 days ago, I signed an order making English the official language of the United States of America. And we've ended weaponized government where, as an example, a sitting...
Stop that quickly there. So I will mention that this is the reason that Todd Callender engaged my team to build Liberty Club Forum, freedom of speech for everybody. We're in between a soft and a hard launch right now. We're waiting for an upgraded pipe to come from AT&T. They were working on it the past 2 days and they haven't made any progress. But libertyclub.net, you can sign up for free. We also have premium accounts available as well. And nothing gets censored over there unless it's pornography or illegal activity. Pretty straightforward. Do you want to add anything to his comments on the weaponization of the DOJ against Trump?
I'm just glad it came back to bite him in the ass.
That's a safe comment. All right. Scott Jennings, the Democrats couldn't find it in their hearts to stand for objectively good things, including the 95-year-old mother of Mark Fogel, who got rescued from a Russian prison. 46 seconds.
This was a horrific night for the opposition party, regardless of how well she just spoke. It started out with Al Green getting thrown off the House floor because he couldn't keep his emotions under control. Then they had the ridiculous paddles, which now social media is roasting.
That you said false on one side and
ridiculous.
Elon on
and
the
then
other.
finally, and maybe most terribly, the Democrats who couldn't find it in their heart to stand for objectively good things, including the 95-year-old mother and Mark Fogel and Mark, who got rescued from a Russian prison, and they couldn't even stand up for that. I thought Democrats came into this speech lost and defeated by Donald Trump. And today it looks to me like they're even more lost and even more defeated than when this speech started. This was a
true story. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Jeff?
Well, I mean, they didn't cheer for the kid with brain cancer, for Christ's sakes. I mean, these people are just evil.
Yeah, absolutely. So check this out from, of all places, CNN. They do not agree. Their viewers do not agree with the Democrats' behavior last night. This is pretty interesting. 20 seconds.
During the course of the event, which is wanting to get reaction on Congressman Al Green's antics and being ejected. 80% of speech watchers said that the Democratic congressman's interrupting of Trump's speech was inappropriate. Only 20% of speech watchers thought what Green did was appropriate, Aaron.
That's incredible to see that on CNN, of all places, on the legacy media. But good to hear.
They won't see it. They will not recognize it. That what their behavior is childish.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're not going to learn anything from it, no. But it's encouraging that some of our fellow citizens who don't necessarily follow politics at the same level that we do are starting to see the light. There's been this, it's a slow process, but this movement of an awakening amongst, as John Wheaton would say, the normie norms. So that is it for chapter 1. We've got a short message from our friends at Sawyer Products. Be right back with chapter 2. Jeff, appreciate your time.
All right.
Have a good night. I will be right back.
The Sawyer Mini is the most versatile personal filtration system available. It's a perfect solution for backpacking, hiking, hunting, fishing, scouting, international travel, and emergency preparedness. At a mere 2 ounces, the Mini fits in the palm of your hand and can filter up to 100,000 gallons of water from any freshwater lake, river, or stream. The Sawyer Mini has a 0.1 micron absolute pore size. It was tested to 10 million parts of bacteria and 1 million parts of protozoa without a single breakthrough. This is the highest level filters can be tested to, so we're confident these are the highest rates of filtration available.
All right. So first one up for chapter 2 is the young man, DJ Daniel, that we've mentioned with brain cancer, that, you know, the Democrats, liberals, whatever you want to call it, were unwilling to stand up for him. Here's a short 56-second interview with him.
But you want to know the craziest part? Because my mom bathes me and my brothers all together. And out of nowhere, I locked up. And then my dad was calling my name, and I started going to the slow thing. And he said, "Stop playing with me." And I started to act, I ain't gonna lie, I started to act slow. And then as soon as he said that, we was speeding all the way, running lights, going to the hospital. And then next thing you know, I was seizing on the table. They said, "No, we're gonna have to go on this brain tonight." Ever since then, I had 13 brain surgeries, and that's how many times my personality has changed. And that's something that you don't hear from a terminally ill child. They had 5 months to live. I'm gonna keep on going until my gas tanks run out. And that's when God calls you home. You never know when God's gonna call you home. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my dad. I know he's pretty proud of me, and I'm pretty proud of him too. And I'd like to thank President Trump, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today.
Incredibly moving story, number one. Number two, what an articulate young man. Kudos to him. Let's hope that things go well for him down the line. Absolutely. All right, next one up. This is the greatest picture to represent America since bloodied Trump's fight photo. And there he is one more time. I mean, what a story. What a triumph. All right, and the next one up is, do you agree? Comment with your thoughts. This is an anonymous take on the Democrats' behavior last night.
Tonight, the world watched as President Trump delivered his address. What did we see? Not just division, something worse. The Democrats didn't clap. They didn't stand. They sat stone-faced, refusing to acknowledge even the most basic moments of human decency. A young child fighting cancer, silence. The sacrifice of American heroes, nothing. They couldn't bring themselves to celebrate life, courage, or even common humanity. And then disruption. Representative Al Green shouting, waving his cane, making a spectacle. The Democrats embarrassed themselves, not just politically, but as people. The world saw it. America saw it. This wasn't protest. This was the death of a party that has lost its way. A functioning democracy needs balance. But what happens when one side abandons reason for blind, bitter opposition? We need leadership that rises above this nonsense. The Democratic Party isn't just collapsing. It's exposing itself. And if they don't course correct, if they don't find leaders guided by principle instead of petty politics, then yes, this is the beginning of the end. The question now is, who will rise from the ashes?
Very well said and very accurate, I might add. I don't really have anything to add to that, but let's move on to the next one from James Woods. The President of the United States announces that 2 murderous gangs and all Mexican drug cartels are now officially designated terrorists. Democrats sit on their hands and scowl. Look at this. I don't know what to say when I see her. I mean, thank God she wasn't standing behind him with Judas Pence tearing up his speech. But if ever there was a case for term limits, here it is, as well as the fact to make sure that people like her don't get to take advantage of the situation with insider trading. So next one up is a legit question. WTF, Nancy Pelosi. Something is off here. I don't know if it's just old age or what it is, but she's long past her expiration date as far as serving in Congress is concerned. 22 seconds. I don't know. I guess you could attribute it probably just to old age and who knows, medication that she's high on. I don't know, but she needs to go. Congressional Democrats, opposition to Trump by holding up little signs that say things like Musk steals and false. And again, I think I've got something queued up for chapter 3. Not sure if I do 100%, but people have run wild with these pictures and modified the statements on their goofy little paddles. And next up, just as crazy as Nancy Pelosi, is the predator Maxine Waters. Elon Musk, with his high-tech ass, may have hacked our last election. Who says this? As far as somebody at her level, I mean, his high-tech ass. These people are actors. This is political theater. That's all it is. And they pander to who they think their audience is and constantly evolve and pivot and change. All of them, 100%. Democrats and rhinos, which makes up the vast majority of Congress, are nothing but professional actors putting on political theater. And here's another example of it, 17 seconds.
Turned it over to him. And we don't know everything that Elon Musk has done with his high technology ass. We don't know what he's being accused of by some, as it may relate to the election. But we're not going to give up in investigating and finding it. Turned it over.
Not much more that I can add to that. But last night, we played a video of Chuck Schumer, Pocahontas, Liawatha, as I call her. And I'm trying to remember who the third one was, but it doesn't really matter. So you had 3 senators being mockingbirds, repeating the same stuff word for word. Well, now there's 22 of them echoing the exact same thing. The mockingbirds, the parrots, whatever you want to call it. So this particular phenomena that we see, whether it is politicians, legacy media, or otherwise, this is your first sign that there's a psyop underway to try and pound stuff into your brain through repetition to the point where you just accept it as fact because you've heard it so many times from so many sources. And they pick very specific wording on this stuff because some words evoke emotion, and that affects the limbic brain, which also affects where all your decisions are made. I'm not going to play the whole minute and 23 seconds, but you'll get the gist of this pretty quickly.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day 1.
So clearly that's an eye test. You can't see all of the on-screen characters. But again, if you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, $9.99, sign up for an insider membership, you get all of these links and you can go back and digest it at your own pace. But suffice it to say, all 22 of these senators were saying the exact same thing in different interviews with people from the legacy media. Some of it was posts that they made to X. But again, when you see that type of behavior, that is 100%, no ifs, ands, or buts, a psyop. And here's one more post on it. Well, actually, a group of posts on X. Several Democratic senators, Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, that's who we showed yesterday, released identical videos with the same script criticizing Donald Trump before his speech. This uniformity of messages led to mockery and criticism from conservative circles, highlighting perceived inauthenticity and political coordination within the Democratic Party. So again, it started with these 3, then it went to 22. And we've got some stuff coming up on how you can do a better job, easier job of identifying psyops and bullshit stuff. You have to accept the fact, though, that you are going to have a certain percentage of people, somewhere probably between 20 and 30%. It doesn't matter what evidence you put in front of them. They're going to believe these false narratives. They're going to believe this complete bullshit. There's no other way to state it. So it is what it is at this particular point in time. But if we don't let them indoctrinate our kids and we don't let them invade our country with the illegals, they lose their voting base and eventually they go away, which isn't too far away. All right, next one up, Jesse Waters. What would you say to someone who said they lost $20 billion? We don't know where the money went, but it's all legitimate. 1 minute, 29 seconds.
Imagine losing $20 billion. That's what's happening in California this week, where under Gavin Newsom's watch, the state spent $20 billion over the last 5 years to combat homelessness. And the number of homeless people increased. So when auditors asked to see where the money was spent, no one had any idea. It turns out the state's homeless council just threw money at homeless nonprofits, but didn't track how much or how the nonprofits spent it. So lawmakers demanded a hearing, and it was a hot mess. Watch.
What's the money been spent on?
LACH is working on finalizing its HAP annual report and hope to have that published in short order.
Why is it taking 3 years to get data? The system was implemented in 2021.
So HCIS began in 2021. It wasn't fully implemented until 2022. And so,
okay, that's still 2 years ago. So why is it taking so? I mean, you're the one that said you're urgent. I don't know. Maybe my sense of urgency is different from your sense of urgency. You can't tell us at all how many people we've helped.
No, they can't. It's like a car accident. You don't want to look, but you can't stop.
When you're talking about what happened in those 2 years, a lot of that is grantees using a data system they'd never used before, getting used to it, getting substantial technical assistance, us getting back bad data, needing to go have further conversations, and then needing to go work on cleaning up that data.
So they lost $20 billion because of technical difficulty?
It's unbelievable. They think we're all stupid and that we don't pay attention to this stuff. And again, from a sense of relativity, if you had $1 million, let's say it was 1 million seconds, that's approximately 11 days of time. $1 billion, on the other hand, is 31.66 years. So the jump from 1 million to 1 billion is astronomical. And then the jump from 1 billion to 1 trillion would be the equivalent of 31,660 years. So that helps give some perspective as to the size and scope. Now, before we go on any further with this next one, good old YouTube is up to their censorship again. So Robert Larson, her microchip needs replacing. She's wet in the brain. Flagged by YouTube and not allowed to go unless I manually approve it. Held for review, it says. I just approved that one. Let's see. Next one up. Bob C says she shit herself. So we mark all of our videos 18 or older. We don't enable any censorship stuff whatsoever. This is 100% on YouTube, so I'm going to show that one. And then let me see, Muddy Creek Podcast, our new friend. She said, wide range of strange. That's it. Wide range of strange. And they censored her. Unbelievable. So I'm going to show that. And let's see, next one up. I haven't had a chance to stay on top of all this censorship. Mojo says, stone face more like shit faced. I'm going to show that. And I don't know how far back it goes with censorship. There's another one here from Mojo. The Democrats look sad, soulless, and worthless. Why in God's green earth would they censor something like that? And by the way, there were a handful of people that were in the YouTube chat early. Check this out. Robert Kelkins, shut the dogs up, exclamation point. I'm assuming that's in reference to Jeff's dogs that were in the background and whatever, but it's censored by YouTube. Shut the dogs up gets censored by YouTube, just to prove that too. I have no control over anybody's dogs or background noise. So anyway, moving on from there. Next one up, newly unsealed court records show that a confidential informant made $665,638.63 over roughly the last 8 years working for the FBI, with one of his recent assignments being to pose as an Iraqi terrorist. So at the bottom here, CHS-1 has been working with the FBI since and that's the informant's name, or actor, I guess you could say. Since approximately 2014, CHS-1 has no prior arrest convictions or negative reporting. CHS-1 is working with the FBI based on patriotism as well as monetary benefits. CHS-1 has done extensive work for the FBI beyond this case, and CHS-1's total compensation for work performed and the reimbursement of expenses over the past approximately 8 years is in excess of $665,000. So in the range of 90 some odd thousand a year. The dollar figure for this one is less important to me as it is to the fact that the feds are on record, and this isn't the only case, but it doesn't happen very often, is disclosing that they use third-party actors to drum up support for whatever crazy narrative that they're pursuing at the time. Kind of like middle-aged white guys are the most dangerous demographic in America, which is what Obama and Brennan were trying to push super hard. All right. It looks like Governor Janet Mills isn't the only corrupt Democrat in Maine. Democrat Maine Rep Chelly Pingtree's net worth before joining politics was $316,000. Just 4 years later, it spiked to $46 million. She bought an island vacation house just for fun and flies on a private jet from her island to her job in Washington, D.C. I guess Maine is plagued with corrupt Democrats. Turns out that several politicians use under the table information to trade stocks, and the fact that Chelly Pingree is in politics means she might also have access to that kind of information. 31 seconds.
Rich politician Chelly Pingree's net worth before joining politics was just $316,000. And just 4 years later, it spiked to $46 million. How is this possible? She bought an island vacation house just for fun and flies on a private jet from her island to her job in Washington, D.C. It turns out that several politicians use under-the-table information to trade stocks. And the fact that Chelly Pingree's in politics means she might also have access to that kind of information.
You're not accumulating that much wealth that fast without being on the take in some regard. And Elon Musk has mentioned that multiple times as well. All right, next one up. Antifa protesters threatened to block President Trump's motorcade en route to the Capitol, so Secret Service caught them off guard and sent a full decoy motorcade. Meanwhile, President Trump took the back way. Trump's always 2 steps ahead. I'm not going to play this video. I'll scroll through it quickly. It doesn't show you anything other than what looks like a procession of presidential vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. But not surprised that they had to resort to that. All right, next one up. And this is a brutal story that we've been following for quite some time. Tina Peters, the then Mesa County, Colorado clerk and recorder, investigated voter fraud after the 2021 Grand Junction municipal election. So hyper-partisan Democrat Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold and Attorney General Phil Weiser, along with a weak Republican local district attorney Dan Rubenstein, brought trumped-up felony charges against Tina Peters and falsely accused her of unauthorized access to voting machines. During the same time, Jenna Griswold, a partisan slob, allowed voting machine passwords to remain publicly posted online for 4 months. Then Democrat Judge Matthew Barrett, poorly rated by his community, was dumb enough to state on the record that he sentenced 69-year-old Tina Peters to 9 years in prison because of her First Amendment protected views on election integrity. Tina Peters is now suffering greatly in prison because of these sadistic partisans. Fortunately, the Trump 47 Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, along with Colorado, acting U.S. Attorney Bishop Gruhl, took the first step today to bring justice to Tina Peters. They filed a statement of interest in her federal habeas lawsuit drafted by attorney Patrick McSweeney, raising these serious civil rights problems. Next, the Trump 47 Justice Department must open a federal civil rights probe under 18 U.S.C. 241 for this apparent criminal conspiracy to violate the constitutional rights of Tina Peters. This includes investigating Jenna Griswold, Phil Weiser, Dan Rubenstein, Judge Matthew Barrett, and all other potential co-conspirators. It's outrageous that they put this 69-year-old woman in prison for 9 years for simply questioning elections. So if you don't know the details on this, essentially, she found massive evidence of cheating. And it was so massive, she decided to take a copy of it and put it on a USB key. If you search for the video on her being sentenced, this judge is an absolute royal piece of shit. He spoke down to her. He threw the book at her. And all she's guilty of is exposing massive election fraud on the part of the Democrats in Colorado. And in the larger sense now, we're starting to get a feel for the woke progressives are much fewer in number than what we've believed for years, because it turns out that a shit ton of USAID money and other buckets of money have been used to put paid protesters out there and all sorts of stuff that has made them appear larger than life when they are not. This judge in this case in particular needs to be thrown off the bench. Unbelievable partisan decision. And this woman deserves a commendation, not a jail sentence. And hopefully our federal DOJ gets her freedom. Unbelievable stuff. All right. Somebody in the Signal chat. So by the way, if you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, sign up for $9.99 to be an insider. In addition to getting all the daily sit rep situation reports, you get an invite to our private Signal chat, which is averaging around 2,500 messages a day. Sometimes a little less, might be 20,000 or pardon me, 2,000. But the amount of information exchanged in there is phenomenal. There's other benefits, but I'll cover those later. So somebody in the Signal chat posted this, and I apologize for not remembering who it was. Otherwise, I'd point them out specifically. But feces and refugees triggered dysentery outbreak in leftist-run Portland. Portland, Oregon's rapid economic decline is well-documented phenomena related to Democrat leadership and progressive polity initiatives. The city is perhaps one of the most far-left governments in the entire U.S., and it is a notorious breeding ground for leftist activist politicians. Portland is considered a sanctuary city, and Oregon is a sanctuary state. Political opposition to illegal immigrant deportation efforts is extensive. This ideological stand, however, has only exacerbated the region's economic problems. So I'm not going to go any deeper into this. I'm not going to play this video. What I am going to say is there's a young man in Portland, Oregon, who owns a company called Jump Medic, jumpmedic.com. He's a paramedic. By my guess, he's in his early 30s. He's been a paramedic for upwards of 10 years. His entire family are moving either to the Carolinas or Tennessee because things are so bad in the state of Oregon. If you want a really badass medical kit, first aid kit, and you don't want to, spend a gazillion dollars, go check out jumpmedic.com. We don't have any relationship with them. We don't have any affiliate codes. We don't get paid any money. But I've shown their bags online here before, where you can take their bag and unzip two sides. There's a piece of Velcro at the top. You pull it down, and the whole thing unfolds in a T shape so that you can get at every single thing, which is held in place. As opposed to my usual process when I have a bag full of stuff, is I just dump everything to find what I want, and then I put everything back in it. So good guy, doing a great job. Jumpmedic.com. If you have a chance to check out his stuff, it's really good, and it's a fair price. I particularly liked how he said, people will put something out there for an FAK, a first aid kit, and they'll say over 500 items. And when you get into it, it's because they put 250 Band-Aids in it to get to that 500 number. And he said, I don't want to charge you a whole bunch of money for a whole bunch of Band-Aids. Go to wherever, go to Sam's Club, or Walmart, whatever, and buy all the Band-Aids you want for pennies on the dollar. So anyway, jumpmedic.com wasn't in the brief for tonight, but when I saw this come up, Portland, Oregon is the first thing that I thought of. All right, next one up. I'm pretty sure this one was from S2 in the Signal chat. If it was somebody else, please correct me. And this is from the Department of Defense. So Pentagon deploys Stryker Brigade Aviation Battalion to southern border. The Pentagon is deploying a Stryker Brigade combat team and a General Support Aviation Battalion to the southwestern border, accelerating efforts to fulfill President Donald J. Trump's directive to bolster military support in securing the U.S.-Mexico border. The units equipped with wheeled vehicle and air capabilities are set to reinforce border operations in the coming weeks. Each SBCT is a mechanized infantry force of approximately 4,400 soldiers, and the Army's 9 SBCTs, 7 active duty and 2 National Guard, are known for their rapid deployment and versatility. Built around the Stryker vehicle and 8-wheeled armor platform, the brigade brigade, balances mobility, protection, and firepower, capable of transport via C-130 Hercules aircraft within 96 hours. The Stryker excels in operations requiring swift response. And that vehicle right there looks like a giant size Argo, basically, for anybody who's familiar with the Argo off-road vehicles. All right, next one up speaks to a point that I just made of what happens when all the funding, got nuked. So how hilarious is it that this is what the resistance looks like once we stop paying for them to be assholes? James Wood, the resistance, once Doge pulled the plug on USAID money scam, that's it. So you go from hundreds of people who responded to ads in Craigslist to make upwards of $500 a day. Some it was less, but many were $500 a day to be a paid protester, to, there's no money to pay anybody to go do this. And this is what I was touching on earlier. We've been led to believe that the opposition is much larger than it is by an order of magnitude. It's not that many of them. All right, moving on to the next one here. Justin Trudeau, and yes, I know his name's Trudeau. I call him Turdo because he's a turd. Just told Canadians to cancel their USA vacation, stop buying USA products, and to continue booing the United States national anthem. The Canadians that I know despise this guy. He is an absolute royal piece of shit. 18 seconds.
We're going to choose to not go on vacation in Florida or Old Orchard Beach or wherever. We're going to choose to try to buy Canadian products and forego bourbon and other classic American products. And yeah, we're probably going to keep booing the American anthem.
And so that's a good way to cozy up to the country that protects you guys, as well as the country that you depend on economically more than anything else in the world. This guy is going to destroy Canada. He already did it by importing a gazillion people from third world countries to the point where Toronto is now unrecognizable. You get less than 10% are WASPs, and the rest are anything but. And then add to the fact that he's engaging in this trade war that he can't win. Canada represents a tiny, like 1.5% of our annual GDP as far as our trade is concerned, whereas going the other way, we account for somewhere around 35% of their GDP. Just stupidity. But anyway, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. That's for sure. All right. U.S. intelligence sharing with Ukraine halted. The United States has reportedly ceased sharing intelligence with Ukraine, as reported by multiple sources, including the Financial Times. This action follows a suspension of military aid by President Trump, affecting Ukraine's capability to conduct both offensive and defensive operations, particularly against Russian forces. The decision has sparked varied reactions, with some seeing it as a move to push Ukraine towards peace negotiations, while others view it as a weakening of Ukrainian defense. So, as was mentioned earlier, the effect of these policy changes on the part of the Trump admin has forced Zelensky back to the table to discuss peace talks, because without us providing billions of dollars, all kinds of our military equipment, all kinds of assistance from intelligence operations to, those guided missiles have to be sent and directed by satellites, which means that they've taken advantage of our satellites to conduct some of the hits behind the front line. This is just a gong show. This needs to end. It's not our war, and it needs to go away. And the theft of our money going from here to the Ukraine, then back here vis-a-vis shady NGOs, military contracts, and going straight into, the Democrat and Rhino pockets, it's got to end. They've been raping us here. All right, next one up from our governor here in Florida. Man, to this day and probably forever, I will be upset with Ron DeSantis teaming up with Paul Ryan, absolute WEF scumbag. He would have been a presidential candidate in 2028, or at least a VP candidate in 2028. And he royally screwed himself. He's done a really good job here in Florida. This will be his last term. His wife is reportedly going to run for governor. She's evil. She is. And if I had to guess, she's the one who twisted his arm into cozying up with Paul Ryan. But he's done a lot of good things for us here in Florida, and I give him credit for that, but he's certainly not a statesman at the level of the president. So Ron DeSantis boasts record tourism, proposes tax and gun law changes. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis highlighted the state's record-breaking tourism figures during his 2025 State of the Union address, noting an influx of 3.3 million Canadian visitors amongst a total of 142.9 million tourists in 2024, so less than 2%. His comments include a lighthearted jab at the idea of a Canadian boycott of Florida. Additionally, DeSantis proposed significant legislative changes, including the potential repeal of property taxes statewide and a re-evaluation of gun control measures like open carry and red flag laws. So the red flag law, Pam Bondi was a big part of that, and that's one of the reasons that I'm not a strong proponent of her. But there are only 4 states in the entire country that don't allow open carry: California, Illinois, New York, and Florida. Now, Florida has a small stipulation that says if you are on your way to or from hunting or fishing, or if you are hunting and fishing, you can open carry. But most law enforcement officers aren't aware of that, and every time somebody does that, they typically end up, headline news for whatever the community is where they end up getting charged. There's a time and a place for everything. So if you're going, let's say, shopping to the grocery store, the mall, whatever, I don't agree with open carrying in those types of scenarios. It makes you a target, essentially. However, if you are traveling on the interstate, stopping at unfamiliar gas stations, stopping at unfamiliar rest areas, especially at night, it's a great deterrent. And I say this after having crisscrossed the country countless times driving. And I've flat out stopped in some really shady spots because I had no choice because of a detour and then an accident and then a road closure. Next thing you know, I find myself on the south side of Atlanta, and I'm the only Caucasian in the area. And everybody stopped what they're doing while they're watching me at this gas station, and all taking note of the fact that I had a staccato on my hip and a couple extra mags, so 60 rounds plus 1 in the chamber, and nobody messed with me. But a time and a place for everything. We've been this close to open carry countless times here in Florida, and then some rhino always seems to get involved and turn it down. The funny thing is late 1980s when the FSO, Florida Sheriff's Organization, or I think that's what the acronym is, they were vehemently opposed to concealed weapons permits. They only wanted people to be able to open carry so they could see you have the guns. But ever since then, they've railed against open carry because it might scare somebody. Doesn't seem to be having that effect around the rest of the country where it's allowed, especially some very liberal states. 30-second clip here of Ron DeSantis.
Flock to our state and investment to Florida surge. We continue to set tourism records. 2024 saw more than 142 million visitors come to the state of Florida. This includes 3.3 million visitors from Canada. That's not much of a boycott in my book. Maybe they wanted to get a glimpse of what a Stanley Cup winning hockey team actually looks like.
All right, we'll stop that there. Again, I'm very ambivalent towards Ron DeSantis. I really wish he didn't team up with Paul Ryan, but once you go that way, there's no coming back from that whatsoever. All right, next one up here. This is absurdly dishonest. I don't even mention the UK or France in the clip, both of whom have fought bravely alongside the US over the last 20 years and beyond. This is JD Vance on his X. So Antonello Guerrera says, bad news for Starmer and Macron. Vance confirms the only US security guarantee in Ukraine will be the mineral deal. He also plays down British and French peacekeeping troops as 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30 or 40 years. Even if he's not referring to France and England, the fact remains the same. They can't recruit people to save their life. Their recruit numbers are way below ours, and ours are not satisfactory either. But they are a shadow of their former selves. They don't have any kind of, bulk to their militaries at all. Minute 33 seconds. I'll play a portion of it.
When you would talk to the Biden administration officials in private, it's another example of a terrible situation the Biden admin left the Trump administration. When you ask them, what's the plan? Okay, we're going to spend tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars in Ukraine. What is your plan? And they would honestly tell you, well, we're just going to send them weapons for as long as we can and hope eventually they can turn the tide. Hope is not a strategy. Throwing money and ammunition at a terrible conflict, that is not a strategy. The only guy in town with a strategy is the President of the United States, and everybody needs to follow his lead.
What scares me is Zelensky, when he says it's going to go on for years, how many more lives are going to be lost? He's not going to have a country to save at the end of that. The minerals deal would have provided the monies to rebuild their country and a strong U.S. presence and maybe European troops as well.
And this is an important part of it. The president knows that, look, if you want real security guarantees, if you want to actually ensure that Vladimir Putin does not invade Ukraine again, the very best security guarantee is to give Americans economic upside in the future of Ukraine. That is a way better security guarantee than 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30 or 40 years.
All right, I'll stop it there. I see somebody made a good comment over here on the Rumble side, right there. So Archangel 716, UK only has 75,000 troops. Only 25,000 of those are deployable. I can't verify the numbers, but I have no reason to disbelieve that. I'm sure it's somewhere in that order. It's pretty pathetic, though, at the end of the day. So it's not enough to go to war with Russia and Putin, that's for sure. All right, so that is the end of chapter 2. We're going to pivot directly into chapter 3, which is zany, funny stuff. I don't have any messages in between chapters 2 and 3, so here we go. So the very first one, Eric Daugherty tagging at I find retards is the new bat signal for X. You may fire off the signal. We covered this last night, by the way, when facing a person who said something so ridiculous it does not even warrant a response, only ridicule, happy signaling. So here's the bat signal for the retard finder. And this is funny. He responded to it. You called? I'm loving this retard finder stuff. It's so freaking funny. All right, next one up. Bernie Sanders is delivering a predictably ranty response to Trump's speech. Nobody who's 150 years old or 200 years old or 300 years old is receiving Social Security checks. Yes, Bernie, that's the point. They're dead. Someone else is using their Social Security number to get the checks. This guy's such a communist idiot.
Nobody who was 150 years old or 200 years old or 300 years old is receiving Social Security checks.
Just he's one guy particularly can't stand. So next one's pretty funny from Retard Finder. What are we calling a car full of retards? Harry Sisson and his faggy friends. Too freaking funny. All right, and next one up, and I think we may have shown part of this last night. We showed the Belgian troops. These UK soldiers will fight against the Russians on the ground in Ukraine. 18 seconds. Unreal. So look at that unit on the front of the screen here. Are these the people that you want defending your country, going to war with Russia? Unreal. Unreal. All right, next one up. Pitbull is right. Whoever the fuck doesn't like United States of America, may God bless you, but fuck you at the same time. Chapter 3, NSFW warning. Almost always there's some element of profanity in chapter 3, 24-second video.
The fuck doesn't like the United States of America, may God bless you, but fuck you at the same time. If you don't like the United States of America, go back to the countries that we the fuck from, and you'll see how much you appreciate the United States of America.
Yeah, these people waving Mexican flags and protesting against Donald Trump, bunch of illegals. They got to go. They have got to go. All right. Pete has done it again. Pete Hegseth. He just renamed Fort Moore in Georgia back to Fort Benning in honor of Corporal Fred G. Benning. In 2021, Congress effectively banned naming military bases after Confederate figures. So Hegseth has found a way around it by finding patriots who shared the same names and naming bases in honor of them. Fort Bragg was originally named after Braxton Bragg, a Confederate general. Now Bragg is back, but this time in honor of Private First Class Roland L. Bragg, stationed at Fort Bragg during World War II. Genius work, Mr. Secretary. Absolutely. So South Park is a documentary at this point. 1 minute, 26 seconds. I'm going to play the whole thing.
Miss Woman, do you feel ready?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready, David. There are just so many amazing women athletes out here today. It makes me so proud.
Now, this is the first year that a trans woman is in the competition. How do you feel about that?
Amazing. I feel honored to be a part of history. I have a lot of incredible trans friends who are athletes, and so we're all inspired this woman's competing.
Uh-huh. And have you actually ever met Heather Swanson?
No, I've never competed against her before, no.
She's not exactly your average trans athlete.
Well, what is an average trans athlete? Honestly, I find that kind of bigoted, David.
Okay. Heather Swanson is actually joining us now. Miss Swanson, how does it feel to be competing today?
I can't tell you how free I feel now that I've started identifying as a woman. Now that I can compete as female, I'm ready to smash the other girls.
And is it correct you just started identifying as female 2 weeks ago?
I'm not here to talk about my transition. I'm here to kick some fucking ass. Let me tell you something, Dingleberry.
David Perry.
I'm going to roll up the other women here, and I'm going to smoke them. I am the strongest woman this state has ever seen.
Any words for the challenger, Miss Woman?
Good luck, Heather.
Luck is for dudes.
Macho Man Randy Savage. Actually, this next one is the short video we showed of the Belgian military on their way to conquer Russian territory in Ukraine after losing Brussels to 15-year-old Moroccans. All right, that's enough of that. I would not want to stake my country's destiny on those guys. All right, I've got a couple of them in here that look like repeats from last night. All right, next one up. So from Retard Finder, I'll tell you what you are, a retard. And that is in reply to John Fetterman. This thing is so awesome with Retard Finder. It's what a great way to ridicule these clowns. All right. And, Liawatha here having an absolute meltdown that Elon may bankrupt the vaccine manufacturers and no one gets vaccine. Her $67 million of worth is almost 100% built on money from Big Pharma. Brutal.
Profitable. In fact, he may have the opportunity to bankrupt the vaccine manufacturers, and then nobody gets vaccine.
Oh, no. Wouldn't that just be terrible? All right, next one up. Hold on to your hats because Elon Musk, Trump's go-to advisor, billionaire genius, and hands down the most influential guy on the planet, just lobbed a grenade into the global conversation. He's claiming loud and clear that the U.S. government didn't just botch the Charlie 19 response, they bankrolled its very existence, setting off a chain reaction that left millions dead worldwide. And we're flirting with a strike here on YouTube with this, but the truth has got to come out. This isn't some late night rant from a nobody. It's Musk, the guy who's got the president's ear and a track record of shaking up reality from Tesla to SpaceX. Think about it. If he's right, this is beyond explosive. It's apocalyptic. The idea that DC suits funded a virus that flipped the world upside down should have all of us hitting the brakes, jaws dropped, demanding the truth. We're talking millions of graves, shattered economies, and endless grief, all potentially tracing back to a government lab checkbook. This isn't just big news. It's the kind of history-bending bombshell that should make Watergate look like a petty prank. So why isn't the planet frozen, reeling from the weight of it? Why aren't we storming the streets, pounding on doors, screaming for accountability? Musk's dropped the match. Shouldn't the world be catching fire? No, because big tech, big media have not got to the point where they're willing to admit the truth on any of this stuff. And they give out strikes to people like us when we mention this stuff. And hopefully we don't get one for that, but it wouldn't surprise me if we did. This next one is a video. I may have touched on this last night, but I know S2 mentioned it. These are Ukrainians trying to escape the country before being forced into being conscripted and sent to the front line to die. Nothing screams democracy like men fleeing their own country, only to be captured at the border, kidnapped, conscripted, and packed off to the meat grinder to meet their inevitable demise. 14 seconds. There's no audio with this video, by the way. So these are all young men trying to escape. Essentially, Zelensky's Gestapo is literally kidnapping people and sending them to the front line. All right, next one up. I'm only going to play a portion of this one, but this guy's got some good points.
Dear Americans, if you're waving a Ukrainian flag or putting a Ukrainian flag in your bio, I want to ask you, what exactly are you supporting? Are you supporting a war that the US and Europe sparked by constantly expanding NATO closer to Russian borders since 1994? Are you supporting a war that was sparked by the US helping to overthrow a democratically elected Ukrainian president in 2014 because he was pro-Russian? Are you supporting a war that was instigated by Biden supporting Ukraine joining NATO in 2021, which would be like Mexico entering a military alliance with Russia? Are you supporting funding war or forging peace? Now, to be clear, Putin started this war. Putin broke international law. Putin has blood on his hands. But our government has been giving other governments excuses to fight wars. Weapons companies who own our politicians profit from war and find new reasons to start war, give them excuses. U.S. aid, which has been undermining foreign governments under the guise of humanitarian aid, gives them excuses. Cowardly Republican and Democrat career politicians who go along with all of that give them excuses. If we want to stop wars, then we need to stop giving other countries reasons to start them. Now, we can all have empathy for Zelensky. He's had to endure 3 years of watching his people suffer at the hands of Putin. But legacy media painted him as a victim in that press conference. They ignored how Zelensky behaved for the first 39 minutes of a 50-minute press conference.
And we've beat that topic to death, so we're going to move on from there. Next one up. Liberal men after a long day of standing with Ukraine. So I'm sure that short music clip there will get us a copyright infringement notice. We get them every single night for one thing or another. Retard finder here. Pez dispenser looking retard. He is on a roll. All right, next one up. What is the best loophole that you've ever found? My brother once yelled, "Last one to jump in the pool is gay," and then jumped into the pool. However, I figured out that if I did not jump in, then technically he would be the last one in the pool, and he is still gay to this day. Oh my God. And what the fuck is this?
You left with.
Oh yeah, because everybody say.
Wow. I don't know what to say. Freaks. All right. So Rick Wilson from the Lincoln Project, Retard Finder, says, retard posting retarded thing. Trump owes the people of America an apology for wrecking Joe Biden's booming economy. Yeah, you mean that booming economy with 31% year-over-year inflation on food? All right, next one up. This is what I posted 12 hours ago. I was right. Is it possible that Ryan Ruth, the suspect in the second assassination attempt on President Trump, was reportedly trained in Ukraine, was actually working for the Ukrainian government? And that's seeming more and more likely. We actually mentioned this many months ago when we found out how many times he'd been to Ukraine, the recruiting that he was doing here to get people to go over to Ukraine. The whole thing stinks, whether it's Matthew Crooks or Ryan Ruth. They did not act alone. And hopefully we'll get to the bottom of both situations. All right, next one up here. NOAA workers protest against federal job cuts. This is funny.
We shall not be moved. We're fighting for the climate. We shall not be moved.
Wow. Talk about a kumbaya moment there. Too freaking funny. All right. The pro-Zelensky protest outside the White House is one of the lowest energy protests I've ever attended. I almost couldn't find it. Seems to be a direct result of USAID funding drying up. We showed a bit of this earlier, but check this out. This is the big protest.
Americans will wake up. Hopefully, they will wake up to the real danger.
So this is what happens when you cut off the money to the paid protesters. You know, we've been given this impression that they're larger than life. In reality, the theft of our money has been larger than life, but the number of people who support this insanity, not so much. All right. And I got a couple more dang repeats in here that I got to get past. All right. I don't think I played this one. This is pretty cool. This guy ends up with a pod of dolphins swimming around him. So Robert Larson, by the way, just got flagged by YouTube for saying, "Go home, tool bags." So apparently tool bags is forbidden by YouTube. Not surprised. Who knows? Anyway, here we go.
Jerry MacArthur was riding the waves in Howe Sound when this happened.
And as we were kind of going out, we saw something out in the water. We didn't really know what it was.
Oh, they're all below me. Oh, God, I don't want to hit one of them.
Leaping and playing alongside him was roughly 100 dolphins.
And, you know, I didn't want to get too close to them, so we steered away from them to kind of give them a wide berth. But they were curious, so they came over to check us out. And the next thing I know is just dolphins everywhere. Like, on the hydroflyer, you're riding about 3 feet above the water, so you have a pretty good view looking down. And when I looked down, all I could see was dolphins underneath me. This is insane! It was really wild because they were actually turning upside down underneath me so they could stare up at me.
Pretty cool example of nature. The second accurate shot was unexpected. Now I need a bald friend to try this with. This is pretty funny. Oh, that's awesome. All right. I stand with Ukraine. What did he say? I don't know. Something about being gay and vaccinated. And then 16-second clip of Zelensky making an insane demand. The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters to fight and they will be dying. We've touched on this before, but here's 16 seconds.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war. And they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying.
This guy needs to crawl back under a rock. Go away. All right. Liberals will be wearing COVID masks again to protest Donald Trump. 22 seconds of younger white lady insanity who doesn't take enough SSRIs.
Effective form of protest you have right now that you can start immediately. Put a mask back on. Stop letting them observe your face. And
oh no, what would we do if we couldn't see her face?
Have the side benefit of better health and protecting the rest of us in the world. Put a mask back on.
I support her putting a mask back on 100%. All right, so we're into memes now. And AOC says, "Can I ask a stupid question?" Trump's response is, "Better than anyone I know." Well done. John Pavlich, "I'm an American against Donald Trump. I am the American majority." Not true, but Retard Finder says, "I am a retard finder. I found you." Love it. How many deaths would have to occur by gun for you as a gun owner to change your stance and give up your gun? And Mike says, how many rapes have to occur before you cut off your dick? Yeah, pretty much. And look at these dogs. We ate that clown. Walk in the woods helps me relax and release tension. The fact that I am dragging a body should be entirely irrelevant. I think that one might be a repeat. The sky is blue and water is wet. Dictator, liar, Nazi. Epstein, the devil in the darkness. Just the stuff's got to speed up a little bit. All right. And if the shit emoji had a face. All right. I'm for Ukraine paying us back. Me too. You know what it doesn't say in the Constitution? Give up your rights to appease some crybaby liberals. Amen to that. Why would I attack America? You already have Democrats for that and rhinos. Just to be clear, Donald Trump, we should spend less time worrying about Putin and more time worrying about migrant rape gangs, drug lords, murderers, and people from mental institutions entering our country so that we don't end up like Europe. And that's pretty awesome. So that's our friend, FREN, in a Christian Warriors armored suit. Yeah, no kidding. Oh, no, not again. With Pam Bondi. Zelensky met with Senator Chris Murphy before the showdown in the Oval Office Friday. Murphy convinced Zelensky to reject Trump's rare earth minerals deal, which would have ended the war in Ukraine, blah, 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 blah. The Democrats need to make Trump look like a bully on their propaganda platforms, not to mention the fact that Zelensky signed a 100-year deal weeks before that and gave over all their resources for the most part to the British. I can't remember what the headline tagline was that went with that. So moving on. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy secretly met with Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif to discuss Trump's order to kill Qasem Soleimani and Iran's failed attempts to assassinate Trump in retaliation. Presumably expressed his frustration at their incompetence, only halfway kidding. Murphy's Munich mission to meet with Zarif was not disclosed to the State Department and was not authorized in possible violation of the Logan Act. Murphy justified his personal diplomatic mission after it was discovered by claiming that Secretary Rubio isn't doing his job. Scum, scum, scum. All right, there you go. People are using the signs now. She married her brother. The official face of the Democratic Party. And this one here, by the way, I saw something recently, net worth $40, $50, $60 million. Just insanity. Note from a friend who watched the speech tonight. I always figured the Democrat Party hated black children with brain cancer, but it's nice to have confirmation. Yeah, boy, howdy. All right. And I am the reason Muslim men prefer goats. Shudder. Dear Americans, as a patriotic Canadian, I do not agree with anything that our governments are doing right now. We did not vote for this and do not want a trade war with our greatest ally. If real Canadians were in charge, none of this would be happening. We want a secure border. We want the illegal drugs to stop, and we want the mass immigration to stop. We want our tax dollars staying in our country. Unfortunately, our dictators don't care what we, the people, have to say. I sincerely apologize for corrupt and retarded politicians. Signed, an extremely fed up Canadian. All right, next one. You called me Pocahontas in front of millions of people. I know, that shit was hilarious. We wear pink to support women. Yesterday, we voted for men to continue abusing women in sports. True story. There you go. All the signs are done. I'm retarded. These are all retards. Retard Finder says so, so it must be true. All right. Just in, Biden admin funneled billions of dollars into environmental groups founded only months earlier. Yeah, it was like throwing the gold overboard is what they said. Slush fund handled by John Podesta gave billions to charities founded only months earlier. And that's in addition to the previous post. Yeah, America last. I love war. I steal from taxpayers. Illegals first. I voted against women. I don't know what a woman is. Unreal. I smell like a farm animal. All right. And then from Dan Bongino, I worked with Hillary Clinton. She was evil. The stories agents around her have kept bottled up inside are horrendous. Working on her detail was generally considered a punishment assignment. You will never meet a more mercenary and destructive public figure in your lifetime. And there's Dan Bongino behind Hillary herself. They are undoing everything you did as president. I was president. Roseanne, I take back what I said. USAID was the final nail in the Democrat coffin. Tonight was, meeting last night. From Libs of TikTok, DC Mayor Muriel Bowser just confirmed that the Black Lives Matter Plaza in DC will be renamed after Republicans introduced legislation to force it to be renamed or lose federal funding. This is winning. All right. Let me be clear. Knock, knock. Who's there? Crimea. Crimea who? Crimea River. All right. From the Daily Mail, Washington bans Britain from sharing any U.S. military intelligence with Ukraine. Good move. Democrats refuse to stand to honor the life of Laken Riley in front of her grieving family. What a bunch of classless people. All right. I am a traitor. No ifs, ands, or buts. Shame on her. What a horrible pick she's turned out to be. From Mr. Unforgivable, Trump should be shot and hung upside down by his legs naked in front of the White House. Then all the brain-dead idiots like yourself that voted for him should be put in a gas chamber and slowly suffocated. Don't worry, we will give you a photo of Trump and you can jerk off to while you fade away to burn in hell for an eternity. This is what we're up against, by the way. Just mentally ill people. The secret Republican plot to make liberals look like idiots, known as Operation Just Let Them Speak, is working. All right. And from Brendan Dilley, the only thing Democrat women stand for is to take a piss. I forgot about that one. That's a good one. All right. Trump speaks like a man who's been shot, indicted, and convicted. No fucks. Not one. Democrats showed whose side they're on, and it's not the American people. That was today. Did he kick you out too? Yeah. Couple losers. Elon and the boys back here. So for those of you who are younger, don't recognize this, this is a scene from The Exorcist. I want to say 73, 74 time frame. So Elon and the boys back here. Trump is the priest doing the exorcism, and the deep state is possessed the little girl. Trump touts successes in rousing speech to Congress, says best is yet to come. Reborn in the USA. From Matt Walsh. Things the Democrats didn't clap for: a child cancer survivor, planting a flag on Mars, fighting crime, helping working families, catching terrorists, destroying the cartels. The only thing the Democrats did clap for: Ukraine. And we already covered that one. We already covered that one as well. All righty. So we are now down to the homework section. So what can you do as the audience in light of our main topic of the night, which were the highlights from Trump's address to Congress last night? So I've got 4 quick points to share. Vocally support Trump and his initiatives every chance you get to combat the lies being told by his adversaries. Number 2, help spread the truth by sharing Survival Dispatch news with everybody in your circle. So tonight is episode number 418, and our regulars have heard this before, and I'm trying not to brag about it too much, but we've issued 3 retractions in 418 episodes. We spend a ton of time researching far left, far right, everything in between to bring you the daily situation report, which is essentially the truth at the end of the day. Number 3, share Survival Dispatch news content on your socials, regardless of what platform you watch us on. Grab the video URL, put it on your social media, and help spread the good word. And number 4, support Survival Dispatch news sponsors. CCW Safe is a great example. We had the President Kent on last night. If you don't have CCW Safe and you carry a sidearm, a concealed carry on a regular basis or otherwise, it is the best coverage bar none, period. And there's a gazillion reasons why. And if you look at some comparisons online from third parties, they'll show you that it is absolutely the best coverage you can get across the board. Now, if you're an individual, it might be a little bit more expensive than the other guys, but if you're married, you can tack your spouse on for free, which makes it very economical. They give you coverage It's not just criminal defense and civil court defense for your legal costs. It's not insurance, so it can't be clawed back through a recoupment clause if you happen to take a plea deal just to make something go away without risking decades in prison. But if the judge says you owe this other people, $1 million for this citizen involved shooting, CCW Safe has options where they'll pay the whole $1 million. It won't cost you a penny. They have a rapid response team that nobody else has where they get to you ASAP. There's lots of horror stories from their competition responding 3 or 4 days later. These guys are on it just like that. Ah, shit. Thanks, Katie. Appreciate it. I don't know what happened there. The whole soundboard beside me took a shit. I'm assuming that y'all can hear me again now. Is that correct? Give me a 1 in the comment sections if you can hear me now, please. Apologies. I have no idea why that thing bit the dust. Testing. Fuck. What the hell is going on here? 1 second. Testing. All right, can y'all hear me now? My whole soundboard, mic, everything crashed there. Not sure what's going on. I'm on my on the built-in microphone. Golly, stuff like this drives me fucking nuts. All right, so we'll wrap up like this. Hopefully y'all can hear me. We are into the conflicted question. A fake avian flu outbreak leading to the government killing 100 million chickens, combined with escalating trade tensions, has triggered a nationwide crisis in the United States. Egg prices have already soared due to millions of chickens being killed off for no good reason. And now new tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China have disrupted imports of critical goods like poultry, grains, and medical supplies. Panic buying has emptied grocery store shelves, and the government shutdown looms, halting federal aid programs. Rumors of rationing are spreading, and urban areas are seeing sporadic power outages as strained infrastructure buckles under demand. You're in a suburban neighborhood 20 miles from the nearest city with a family of 4 and limited resources. The question is, in a scenario where food imports are cut off, local poultry is decimated by the fake avian flu, and a government shutdown delays emergency relief, how would you ensure a sustainable protein source for your family over the next 6 months? Well, I don't know that if you could even do this after the shit hits the fan, if you're not prepped in some manner in advance. But if you want to be well prepared for this, and you're allowed to have any type of animals, whether it be chickens, rabbits, and yes, I know rabbits have no fat, so you need other fat sources. But if you don't have stuff in place already, whether it be animals that you can harvest or freeze-dried food that's been stacked up in your pantry, I suspect when the shit hits the fan at this level, there probably will be virtually no opportunity to feed your family properly, which is why we always say that'll lead to God knows what conflict. We're never more than 3 missed meals away from anarchy, and that's surely what would unfold there. But I want to see your answers. Leave it in a comment down below, put it in the chat, whatever the case may be. We were on for so long last night, by the way, that it, for whatever reason, my browser locked up. And then when John ended the podcast, and I think it's due to us going a long time here, it smoked the closing video, which wasn't very nice. So tonight, hopefully it plays. It's a take on Black Sabbath on War Pigs. And we'll be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, as per usual, 7 days a week. Until then, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. God bless America.
Yeah, I am Rob. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November.
Armies gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that love abortion, call it healthcare reproduction. In the streets, the flags are burning. American hearts are now deserting, projecting hatred to mankind. Lord, open their brainwashed minds. Oh,